Well,
and
I'll tell you what. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay, Patrick. The other thing that I believe is a deception of the enemy is to blind us that the spiritual and the natural go together. But especially in the Western part of this world, they separate them. They think the spiritual and the natural are separate things, but they really work hand in hand. And I was really interested in your the hooded figure. I believe that was like the spirit of suicide, and you were able to see that in your spiritual mind. But
yes.
Had that spirit come on you, it would have caused you to commit suicide, or it wanted to, and that would have been the manifestation in the physical. Do you agree?
Yes. Yeah, and let me ask, okay, you really just hit on some good points here. I believed that all along, that was the spirit of suicide. And I'm going to tell you, I've run up against spirits of suicide before. As far as that one, I ran into them before, during an exorcism. I believe, to be totally honest, I was visited by something while I was working on this book one night that I didn't know what it was. But before I get into that, though, I discerned early on, and that is what the hooded figure was a spirit of suicide. And I'm going to tell you, the demon that causes suicide is very sinister. It's very manipulating. It's very sneaky. And the attitude I sent from that spirit when I had the vision, it was very, very arrogant. It was actually very happy. It did not know that I was having a vision and able to see it. And the attitude I sensed from it was really like, never mind me. You don't know I'm here, and you're not going to know it till it's too late, And that's what I sensed very strong. And as it turned out, throughout my research, I come to realize that something I suspected early on was true, that thing did look like the gentleman who had killed himself in the house. And I think the reason for that was they are so arrogant. Demons are very arrogant. And they will, in most hauntings, and I hope this helps somebody when I say this, most hauntings, if you're patient and you're discerning enough, you will be able to figure out, in many instances, you will be able to figure out why the place is haunted, because the demons get so arrogant about why they're there and who they are that they will tell on themselves. And I'll give you an example. A lot of times, I've heard stories like this before where someone commits suicide in a house and they hang themselves. And then other people will move into that house and they will hear the sound of the rope catching the body, and things like that. And what it is it's not that person's ghost. It is the demon that drove them to do it and now has a legal right to stay there because they did it. And it is reenacting the door that was open to them and gave them a legal right to be there. They reenact that. And that is what I experienced multiple times in that house. I will tell you, I believe, I got to ask you this. Why did you think it was a spirit of suicide that was appearing as a cloaked or a hooded figure?
I just felt that in my spirit, and because I know that the spiritual and the physical work together. And as you said, these demonic spirits, they are arrogant and they want to show themselves. They can't help but show themselves. So whatever is manifesting in the physical is 99% more that's what's happening in the spiritual. The spiritual always manifests in the physical, always.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you, I can't say everything I suspect that I believe happened in that house besides the suicide, but I believe there's other spirits that are there because of other things that happened. And those spirits actually manifested again in that same manner as what events that I believe were happening there. Another thing about this house at 225th Street, though, is I heard, and I could never confirm this, but I had heard that there was another suicide there. And I heard that someone had hung themselves or hanged themselves in a garage. And when I bought the house, there were 3 garages. There was the attached garage. There was a right off the front of the house, there was a very large detached garage that was like big enough for 2 RVs. And then there, at the very back of the property, there was another detached garage that I never really paid much attention to. I went in it and I looked around and never used it for anything. I was only there 3 months, and I never really used that garage for anything. But what I was told was that there was another suicide on the property, and all I was told was that someone hung himself in the garage, and I never even suspected it could have been that back garage until recently. Just probably around a month or a little over a month ago, someone I know was very fascinated. They read the book, and they were very fascinated with it, so they went to that house. They knew where it was, because it's somebody that knows me and knows I live there, because I never really disclose what town that 225th Street is in, just out of respect to the current owners and the former residents. I want to respect those people. But this person, it's a lady I know, and her boyfriend went to the house, and there's an alley that runs alongside the house, and they just walked down that alley, and they were just it was at nighttime, and they were just kind of looking at the house, standing in the alley, and it was dark, and they waited till all the lights went out, and they were just talking about different stories out of the book, and they walked over to that garage that sits at the back of the property, and this lady's boyfriend's I'm going to say around 30 years old. Seems to me, I've met him, seems to be a very level-headed, straightforward, straight shooter. He's not somebody that's going to make up crazy stories or anything like that. And he swears that he looked in the window that's on the garage just out of curiosity. He said he looked in, and he said they had stuff stored in that garage. And he said, I saw a child's rocking chair sitting there, and he said it was rocking back and forth by itself. And he said, I was so scared, we left immediately. They went back. He dropped her off at her house. He went home. She couldn't sleep all night. She swore something followed her home. She kept hearing all kinds of weird noises. She was text messaging him all night, scared to death. She claimed she text messaged me because I lived down the street from her. And I never got any of them, but I wouldn't have really cared to in the middle of the night anyway. But it was just interesting. That's somebody else that I believe they're telling the truth, and they're telling me they had an experience on that property, and that leads me to believe something probably did happen in that garage at the back of the property.
Yeah.
That's where I believe it's possible that the hanging occurred.
Mhm. Yes, I agree. But
I learned in the first haunted house, by the time it was all said and done, and I put all the pieces together, and then we performed the exorcism. There was lots of the activity where something was flat out very arrogant about what it called itself, what its name was, and not a whole lot about why it was there. That was a very different style of a haunting. But as I have researched more what all went on in that environment and in that community, all the pieces fit. And that is I'll tell you what, A Nightmare in Holmes County will be a very controversial book because I'm shining a very bright light on some hidden things in the Amish community. There's a lot of activity that is covered up and hidden, and that's the exact opposite of what people would expect. And I believe that did play a role in my experiences in the first haunted house. But clearly, yeah, I agree with you. Demons, they are arrogant, and they will manifest in certain ways just to basically brag about who they are.